What's up? Corey Cohen here, and real estate broker based in New York City. Want to get into why your home may not have sold. Okay. Every single day, dozens of listings around the New York City market are taken off the market, and it leaves some sellers scratching their heads as to why that might be. Okay. I think it could be driven by a lot of things. The biggest one, of course, just being the pricing. So early on in the process, as you're interviewing brokers and getting feedback around pricing, where folks were digging into the comps, presenting pricing recommendations, what was driving those conversations? Okay, did you list with a broker who may have made expectations unrealistic with what's happening in the market? Secondly, there could have been changing conditions. I know in the last 6-8 months, we have seen mortgage rates steadily rise, and they were in the 3% realm. At one point, they were pushing 7%, and that has drastically contracted the contractual activity that's happening in the marketplace right now. You're seeing people's monthly payments balloon, which can be difficult for passing a co-op board. And it could also just push certain apartments out of the threshold for buyers. Okay, so market conditions could have also played a role here. Either you're mispriced or the market has been moving downwards and you're priced for last year. These are not good combinations, but I think that pricing is probably reflective of the overwhelming majority of why an apartment is not selling. Okay, I think it's up to the broker that you're working with to transparently present information and set expectations correctly. And I think we're just in a different market than where we were 6 months ago. But I do also believe that sellers sometimes stand in their own way of getting to the final pricing. And I think we are in a market that has evolved pretty, steadily in the wrong direction for a number of years. So I'm just looking at one here as an example that was listed for 1.895 million on the market for 191 days. And you take a look through, and it's a wonderful home. It is a bit oddly shaped based on the floor plan here. But when you look at 1.895 million as a price, and you see that the sale was recorded here at 155 back in 2017, okay, assuming that some renovation work happened, but the reality is since 2017, 2018, prices in Manhattan have sunk. They've gotten lower. Okay, so I think some sellers will go into this process expecting to recoup their full money, plus being able to expense their commissions and closing costs. And I think we're in a market right now where that's not always the case. I think there was only really a handful of buildings that you could have purchased in 2017 or 2018 where your sales price has appreciated so much that you should be able to cover all closing costs. Okay, flipping over here to 215 East 96th Street. Again, this was $955,000 at its last asking price. Okay, this had sold for more like $900,000 or $895 back in 2019. So what changed in this apartment that warranted the price increase? Okay, unless you bought peak 2020 when prices took a 10 or 15% dip, it's very hard to justify netting more money than what you paid for your apartment. Okay. Plus, I think this apartment has some taste considerations, just given that the entire floor is made out of marble. Okay. I don't think that that is going to be the highest preference. Maybe in markets like Florida, that's more popular. But in New York City, this is a very taste-specific apartment, which I think is going to limit your buying pool. Okay, so being mindful of any renovations or just being mindful of what you're buying out of the gate and making sure that it falls within those general taste parameters, I think is also important in what's driving the success or lack thereof of your sale. Okay, bouncing over here to this 3-bed, 3-bath on the Upper East Side. Okay, important to note that it is a classic 6. Okay, so you have 2 bedrooms here, and then you have this home office in the back or the maid's quarter. And $3 million is a good chunk of change, I think, for an apartment that may need some updating and renovating. Here you can see a virtually staged photo, and this is how it actually looks. So having that conversation with the seller and figuring out how best to position the apartment so it has a fresh look, I think that that could have helped advance the sale here if there was some staging that was happening. But again, measuring the cost of that versus how many people you're attracting to the space, I think that is an area that you had to be mindful of around on this apartment. Okay, I think the wallpaper could have been pared down and simplified in this photo, okay, which it was, of course, virtually, but I think something like this that is just so busy in certain rooms could be a hurdle for selling a home. Okay, so this is an example where I think making some investments into the cosmetic improvements may have helped net a sale. Okay, and now just jumping over to just a couple more examples here. Okay, this one was on the market for $7.95 million. Okay, here too, I think the flooring that's running throughout the ground floor is very taste specific, especially when the rest of the apartment didn't get the same type of upgrades, right? This looks like the original steps. So I think a buyer walking into this has some awareness of around the renovating that they need to do, which may have created some pause. And, you know, same goes for kitchen was newly updated, but, you know, is it matching the aesthetic of the rest of the home? Okay, so getting something that's half renovated may not be as appealing in this marketplace because buyers right now are hesitant to go into full renovations. Okay, and now just jumping over to 27 West 72nd Street. Okay, this one does also have aggressive pricing, which I think is a product of this larger terrace that's located here. You know, I think the issue here is that the terrace does get a ton of exposure to their neighbors. So all directly above you and around you, you have residents just looking down directly on your terrace. I think that's going to be something that might give a buyer some pause. And I think this is also just reflective of pricing, right? I think $23.43 per square foot for a resale condo is expensive in this market, especially when the outdoor space is so compromised. Okay, and you could see here, just based on the price decreases, initially it was 10 million. It's just been steadily ticking down to reality where the pricing was just out of whack to begin with. And then it just eventually had to come off the market after its latest cycle. So, you know, I think when you're looking at relisting an apartment, I think pricing is always going to come and be the first thing that people are thinking about. Typically, you're already seeing some pricing declines and some reductions in pricing over that lifespan of the listing. So if you're notching it down one more time, maybe it's a matter of crossing that threshold from just over 2 million to just under, right? Because mentally, when people are looking online and using these portals like StreetEasy, you know, they're probably entering rounder numbers and have cutoffs mentally where maybe the deal price falls within what they're looking for, but they're not actively searching for it, right? And the same could be said for brokers who are saving search parameters for their clients. Many, many times I've had clients ask me to save a search for them below a certain pricing threshold when we all know that there may be some room to negotiate to get them there. And they just don't want to see anything that's listed above, say, 2 million or 3 million. And they create this artificial cutoff that you're not hitting as a seller. Okay, so pricing's the big one. Okay, I think working with a broker who's able to educate the nuances of the market to you is also important, and that's happening at the front end of the conversation, right? Setting realistic parameters and expectations for where your home is going to sell and where it should be listed. And then I also just think that there are certain staging issues that can be remedied, keeping the apartment really clean, repainting where necessary, reworking those 1 or 2 rooms that might be problem areas. And, I think taking that full scope approach may make that difference between a sale and no sale. Okay. And then lastly, I think you want to be working with someone who understands marketing tools, who understands how homeowners or home purchasers are shopping for their home online, whether that be through a website or more often than not today through their cell phone. Okay, someone that's really familiar with setting that thumbnail, right? I think the thumbnail tells a really big story for clients and for home shoppers right now. Okay, so what is that first photo going to look like? Okay, you can see it here on this page. Okay, what is that photo that's going to tell that story about the most compelling piece of the apartment? Is it the kitchen? Is it the living area? Is it the view? Okay, so just being able to highlight and articulate that and tell that story visually is just part of that whole marketing package that's going to allow a listing to thrive, assuming that it's priced within reason. So that's just some feedback around getting your apartment sold after your listing expired. If you are currently going through this, I would appreciate an opportunity to speak with you. So feel free to message me here or leave a DM, and would love it, of course, if you would subscribe. So this is Corey Cohen, working on the Upper West Side, helping people all across New York City with their home sales. So give me a call anytime, and my info is below. Thanks for watching.